I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Are you ready to win at the game of life? Well, throw out that rulebook and get down to the business of being the best and most authentic version of you. Welcome to the Human Design Podcast. We're changing the rules around success, abundance, purpose, love, and life, where we're creating a planet where everyone can thrive in a world that loves and supports each other. I'm your host, Emma Dunwoody, a qualified master coach, human design expert, podcaster, and entrepreneur that is living the life of my dreams, breaking all the rules while doing it, making a huge impact, and living my design and manifesting miracles on the daily. Join me as I break down and simplify everything you need to live in alignment with your human design, teach you how to recondition your unconscious mind for greatness, and to take back your power so you can manifest your heaven on earth and serve the rest of the planet at the same time. It's time to give up the fear and step into your highest potential, to reach for the stars, to know and live your greatness. It's what you deserve, and it's what the planet really needs from you. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Remember Angie Lee from episode 346? You know the one, the highly successful reflector that has mastered marketing. She's mastered entrepreneurship and business, speaking, and so much more. Well, Angie and her boxer and entrepreneur brother Mike have created a line of CBD products to help people heal physical pain and anxiety. Angie actually sent me some of her sleepy gummies and CBD oil drops back before I interviewed her, and they were an absolute game changer for me. Since going through early menopause, my sleep had never been as good as it had been before I went through it. But taking their sleepy gummies has been a game changer, and I feel like my sleep is finally back and I'm feeling better than ever. In fact, funny story, Taylor actually tried out their out-of-office THC gummies while she was over there in the US, because obviously she's not allowed to bring them home to me in Australia. And she was not only like super chilled out, really it helped her mind slow down and be pretty quiet, which is not very often for her. And she managed to sleep for 12 hours straight. So they were super good. Soul CBD products are designed to address physical pain and anxiety, as these are the challenges that Angie and Mike understand firsthand and struggled themselves with for a long time until creating these products to heal themselves. Their promise to you is that with Soul CBD products, that firstly, wellness never tasted so good. And all their products are scientifically formulated to maximize bioavailability and effectiveness. Everything is grown in the US, organically farmed and gluten-free, and they triple test all their batches for potency and safety. Soul CBD are the real deal, made by amazing humans with a sincere mission and high standards to deliver quality and results. So if you want to get your hands on some of these beauties, then follow the link in the show notes for more information. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. Well, you may notice there's like an extra skip in my step today. We have just got back from Bali running our invitation-only retreat, and it was so good. I just had to bring Elizabeth and Taylor here on the show to share from this epic adventure. So welcome, Elizabeth. Welcome, Taylor.
Hello.
Hello. So good.
I'm so pumped. So pumped. Well, yeah, we've literally just got off the plane this morning, haven't we? It's crazy. Like it blows my mind. Why the hell do you fly overnight when it's so close and it would be so much easier? But anywho, we did it. And I was sitting in the car driving back from the airport and I think I said it out loud at one point, really simply put, well, we can definitely call that a success. It was just such an epic week. So what I thought I would kick off with is we did notice, because this invitation-only retreat, for those listeners that don't know what I'm talking about, if you've been a part of my mastermind or you've been on one of the retreats in the past, you got an invitation to this retreat that we just did in Bali. And the whole purpose of this retreat was to focus on business, to focus on wealth and abundance with Elizabeth. And Taylor was working and focusing on the back end of the business. So how we can create a business that's scalable. And well, I'm just going to kick off. I had this whole plan going into it. It looked very different to all the retreats I'd done in the past. And straight off the bat, they set their intentions, because it's one of the first things we do on retreat. And I noticed straight off the bat that their intentions were really, really different. And I remember saying to both of you that, wow, this is you can see the growth of these individuals from when they were on the retreats or when they were on the masterminds, because instead of having really doing focused intentions, they were very being focused intentions, and they were really open to see what would unfold on this event. So it was just really like at the get-go, I was like, wow, I need to change what I'm teaching, because they definitely are at a different place than I was expecting. How about you, Elizabeth? What did you like at the kickoff? What kind of stood out for you about this epic group of humans?
How many of them want to learn how to basically use the concept of effortless money in their everyday life, in their business, and how fascinated they were when we started talking about money frequency. I mean, I don't think there was anyone in the room that didn't want to talk about that and hear more about that and all the practical stuff that we went into regarding that. I think that's what surprised me the most, because it was just across the board, you know?
Yeah, it was really cool. What about you, T? What did you kind of notice when we first kind of kicked off? Because I mean, you've done all these retreats with me, so what did you notice?
I think for me, it was the how fast they were ready to dive in, and not just with the learning and all of that, but with each other, and I know that a lot of them knew each other from maybe a previous retreat or mastermind, but even with the people they didn't know, like 5 minutes after we got there, it was so loud in the room, you couldn't even hear your own thoughts. They were just so ready to, which is telling of the type of human that they are, and the success that they inevitably will have, is that they're not reserved and held back, and it doesn't take them a while to kind of, okay, I feel safe here. Like, yes, the container was safe, and these humans are so ready to take action, which is just, I think the thing that stood out to me is watching that at the beginning. I was like, these people are going to leave here completely transformed, because already they're playing at 150%, as you would say.
Yeah, that was so true, so true. Yeah, from the word go, I think we were hearing kind of their deepest, darkest secrets, which was really, really epic. And also that willingness just to be, I don't know what I want, almost. And it wasn't even I don't know what I want from an unresourceful perspective. It was more surrendered. It was this more like, okay, well, I'm not even sure what specifically it is that I need, but I know that this is going to transform me. So there was this really surrendered, trusting feeling of this, incredible, incredible group of people. So what I thought I would also do, or what I thought I would do next, is let's talk about some of the things that were really common across all of them, because for the first time we did a massive intake survey, and they had to fill in a bunch of questions. So we got to actually get a really good understanding of what the problems are that business owners are facing at the moment. I know for me, I think because we always have a room of visionaries, like we attract visionaries, like I'm a visionary, Elizabeth is a visionary, and of course Taylor is an integrator. And what was fascinating was having this room of visionaries, and the first issue that just showed up across the board was this exhaustion around feeling like they had to do everything and be the solution to every problem. And for me, I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. So teaching them this process of even that first part of the identity, that understand at the outset that you are the visionary, that your role is not to be the integrator. Yes, there's going to be a time between setup and before you can hire your next person. I mean, there was a lot of people in the room that were just like, until I get my Taylor, until I get my Taylor, until I get my Taylor. But I think that was one of the first things that really stood out for me was this understanding that, hang on, we talk a lot about human design, but what does it mean when the rubber hits the road? And what it really means is that if you're a visionary, then yes, you have to get out of your comfort zone. Yes, there's going to be things that maybe aren't in your area of genius at the outset in the beginning. But once you heal the I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I don't know enough, whatever the fear is, then very soon you will start to call in that support. You know, in my case, it was Taylor, and now the rest of my team. But I think that was one of the first things that was such a great, like, wow, this is something that visionaries are really wrestling with right now. T, what was another issue that you saw across the board? What was something that was really like, yep, there's a lot of people struggling with this out there?
Okay, well, I have two. Of course I do. One of them was, I think there was this general, in their language, this lack of clarity thing. I don't have clarity. I don't have clarity. And over the course of the 5 days, with the exercises that we all took them through, we revealed that they do, in fact, have clarity. It's just that they're not trusting themselves. And they're too, like you were just saying, trying to be in the details and like bogged down by all of the admin and the things that don't actually light them up. And they're trying to do and be everything in their business, which, you know, at the beginning, like you were saying, there are some things you have to do that are a little bit outside of your, you know, normal realm there. And I think it was just that sitting in a standstill because of everything that's swirling around them, and they don't know what the next step is forward because they feel so overwhelmed by all the things they think they have to do, instead of just focusing on like, what is my next right step? What is my next right step? So that was one of the biggest things. And then on a very more like specific practical level, the biggest theme, which didn't surprise me from my perspective and what I was bringing, I was like, oh, okay, there's this, I don't know how to speak to my ideal client. I don't really have a grasp on who the person is or how to directly speak to them in a way that creates magnetism.
Yeah, I love that. And you took them through, I'm not going to give it away because we're definitely going to do this again, but you took them through such a powerful experience that they were all like, wow. And I think the one that was so stuck in the detail and so stuck in the, wading through the mud, she was like, wow, well, that was easy. Like, that's easy. That's how easy it can be. So it was so freaking cool. I loved watching them transform in front of us. So, Elizabeth, what about you? What was the kind of across the board thing that you noticed with the group that potentially our listeners are also wrestling with?
Mm-hmm. Definitely fear and scarcity with money. That came up a lot on the forums. And I think, you know, what was interesting is as we went through it and we started like really listening to them and like how they're experiencing life and how they're experiencing their business, it was really clear how the self identity around fear and scarcity is almost one and the same with the self identity of perhaps not taking my business seriously or feeling like I still have to do something, not believing in myself. I think it for me, I was just sitting there listening to this and I'm just like, it's exactly the same. It's just we're labeling these things as different, but it's the frequency that they're carrying, and you can call it what you want to call it. But I think being in an environment like they were just in at this retreat and seeing the difference, like not even just us, like even the people around them that were sitting next to them, journaling and meditating and all that, and supporting each other, it was like the whole thing, it just elevated the frequency to the point that I feel like whatever we had to say, well, I speak for myself, whatever I had to say was just more cleanly taken up anyways. So it was just like, I feel like I think I told you this when we were there, the environment itself was a model of everything that you teach. It was like they were literally experiencing like your whole theory, the way you run your business, the way you live your life. They were experiencing that in person. And I think they walked away being much, much closer to the multi-million dollar business that they want because they let so much go.
Yeah, okay. So One of the really cool things that I think the whole crew started to get was this understanding about the business, money, relationships. Like it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. And how we can leverage energy. You told a great story that you had planned to do a really significant investment while you were on retreat because you knew you'd have a really high frequency. And I think that was that moment there that they're like, oh, that's what you mean, like it's all the same thing. Do you want to talk a little bit to that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I mean, I have a tendency to do that. And it's funny because sometimes I plan into it and sometimes I actually don't, but it ends up happening anyways. And that is, you saw me at the airport. I'm just like looking at the stock market, and I've always got like, a handful of stocks in my mind that I want to buy more of or whatever. I like the energy of moving money around different places, whether I'm, moving it from one account to the other or paying off a card or something like that. It's fun to me. So when I'm in an environment like that, I like to leverage the fact that I am just typically in an elevated state because I spend, and I don't even want to say time because it's really more of a space energy thing. I spend quite a bit of space energy before I even go to these things, getting myself out of the way, like connecting with the energy of the people. And I started a few weeks before I even got here. And so then I'm like, well, I'll just bring sort of my whole world into that as well. And I knew that I was going to move money from one account to another, and I was going to swap it from, I had it in some ETFs that were like more of just a little bit more of a general. And I just feel like we're moving into a market where, I would have rather have less ETFs right now. I'd rather have more individual stocks, just the way that the market is. So I had this whole list of stocks and I just bought them, and I really didn't think anything about it. And it ended up coming up in the presentation. Right. And,
Yeah.
I think it was perfect. I think it was a great example for them to invite money in when they're having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's that piece, like really understanding that frequency is frequency, that um, how we can't kind of just have, a high frequency in one area of our life and drag our ass in all the others. Yes, there's going to be places where you're kind of winning a bit more than other places, but you can, instead of feeling like the lower frequency things going on in your life are dragging you down. I loved that reframe of like, well, imagine if the higher frequency things in your life are bringing everything else up. And I think that was a really powerful thing for the group to kind of witness, firsthand.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they like the music too.
Oh my God, that was such a great example. Like that is so cool. Can I talk to a little bit to that exercise?
Yeah.
So there was this really cool, like, because of course we think when someone says, well, what's your money frequency? You go, oh, and you sit there and you think about it and you're like, what is my money frequency? And then Elizabeth just plays four very different songs. Like one was classical, one was like hip hop, one was like prayer, Indian prayer music, and one was just like, I think, a pop song, right? And the object of the game was to, the question was, what is your money frequency with each song? So we're all just blindly following along and like, oh, my money frequency for this song is this, so my money frequency for this song is this. And then you hit us with this whole like, you just changed your money frequency 4 times easily just because you were posed a question. Just that it's that easy to have this money frequency. It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, exactly. Because, the whole thing about the exercise, like you said, it was we're choosing it. But then also once we know we're choosing it, the next step is, and this was a huge theme in the whole retreat, which is step into responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Like, don't just let the world like, oh, wait, I have to pay this credit card, or the rent is due in 4 days. Like, don't just let the world do that. Like, I think as we step up as leaders, we also step up in terms of our responsibility to choose our thoughts, which sets our frequency, which sets our decisions. And I think we're all kind of moving more into that. And the more responsible, we're not just responsible for getting meals on the table for the kids anymore. We're literally responsible for the choices we are making thought wise.
Yeah.
And that's the next generation of leaders. And those were the women that were there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so cool. Do you have anything you want to respond to on that, T?
Only that exercise, like, I was sitting here giggling as you were retelling the story, because even for me, as Elizabeth, you were doing that, I thought I was so clever. I was like, oh, this one is this, and this one is this, and this one is this. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And then the punchline came, and I was like, oh, crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Sasha
good.
did the same thing. She's like, "Oh, I got this," and she's like, she was trying to decide which frequency each song was, like numerically or something. She was, I love it. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And here's what's so funny is that I would have never guessed that you guys, you brilliant minds, would have gone there and like literally tried to figure out the puzzle. Makes sense now because T, you're just like you can work any puzzle type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the point too, right? Is like
Yeah.
the mind gets too involved.
Exactly.
Whereas it's not a mind thing.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing, that it was a really big theme for the whole retreat, where we were having these experiences where so many times in the break, so we actually work in quite a bit of free time in our retreats, so that people can connect, and inevitably people are sharing their gifts. So we've got people doing all sorts of different modalities. I actually did a bunch of Psych K with Kerry Campbell, who's our manifestor coach in HDX. Amazing stuff, and really got to the core of some deep stuff. But there was like Adrienne with her cards of truth, and there was all sorts of different modalities going on. And then when we get to this, to a certain class or one of the panels or whatever it is, and all of a sudden we're like, yeah, but you're already doing it. Like, you just did it at lunchtime sitting around the table. To be able to actually give them this example of that you're already doing it. Like, being authentic in your business is being you. And when you think no one's watching, or when you think you're in a safe space with people that you love, and you don't have all the other, like, I've got to have ascension model, and I've got to know this, and I've got to know that, and you just do what you love, then there's the evidence. There was so much evidence of really what all of these business owners were here to do, right?
Yeah. And I think again, you live your truth. I mean, let's look at like right now in this moment. So the three of us literally slept on an airplane last night.
Yeah.
We got here. We have barely had time to get anything to eat, to shower. Each of us, we went for like just a little bit of a stroll on the beach, got some water, came and sat down because we wanted to be in the energy of this now for you. So what happens is life builds around your purpose, right? And one of the great things that you teach, Emma, and that you do in your life is that, and you told them this when you were there, you're like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I don't have a microphone. I'm in like a hotel or apartment, whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be, you just have to do it. And not get fussed up about all of this stuff. And they were already doing it. They were, like you said, they were sitting at the table doing it. And then they go in and they're like writing down a business plan. We're like, you've already got it. You're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the other things that was really mind-blowing for me, and T, maybe you can talk to this, is we had a number of people that their perception coming in was like, oh God, like, I've just got to trench away, and I don't have clarity, and really they were being quite negative on themselves. And like, we looked at their the questionnaire, and we're like, holy shit, this business is ready to fly. So maybe T, you want to talk a little bit about that, like that gap between thinking that you don't have clarity and you don't know where you're going to, hang on a second, there's like, you've got everything you need. You just need to know what the next phase is, or whatever it is in your words. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'll say is that the form itself, like we keep talking about the form, like when a couple weeks before the retreat, we had them fill out this very extensive intake form. It's a lot of questions, and it is meant to be confronting. And that's the whole point, is that when you actually sit down and put things on paper, it gives you perspective for yourself and anyone else looking at it to where you're actually at. And I think we do this so often with business and money. This came up of like doing a money audit. So many people are resistant to it. We're afraid to look in the places of, oh, I don't know my numbers, or I'm not really sure where all my money is, or I'm not really sure how well that thing is doing over here, or who my ideal client is. But the second you sit down and you just face that wave of resistance and you put things on paper, it's like, oh, okay, now I see how the puzzle pieces fit together, or how I'm actually further along than I thought, or how, I see where I'm at now versus a year ago. I wouldn't have known the answer to that question, or I'm so much further along. And that was the whole point of the exercise I took them through as well, is like, if you just play in a dream space and you write some things down on a piece of paper from this space of not, I need to work it out, but just from a place of dreaming and doing something you love, you actually do have clarity when you don't let all the other stuff get in the way, when you take the mind out of it and the fear and the resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we also saw that. I'll just throw this in here. When we asked that question, remember? We asked that question, like the $10 billion question. And, if someone dropped that into in other words, like if you take all the shit away that you're worried about, then they did feel a lot more clear. So it goes back to kind of at the beginning, it all gets muddled in together.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite personal like awareness but remembrance was when the topic of standards came up, and we were really talking about how these are the things that play one of the most primary roles in the level of success that you have at anything. Like, what are your standards? And one of the things I know that I do without even realizing I do it is I set high standards for the group at the retreat. Because me personally, I have high standards. Like, I don't put crap in my body. I exercise. I'm on time. I keep my promises. All of those sort of things. Like, there's a lot of high standards. The quality of human that I hang out with, people that I call my friends. I saw this great post this morning about relinquishing the gladiator that always has to fight back. That's a standard. Do I need to fight? But no, step away. And I think I just saw like that penny drop in the room, realizing that they had been allowing gossip, drama, allowing themselves to break promises to themselves all over the place. Like, all of these places where they weren't living up to the standard that they need to live up to experience the authenticity and the abundance and the success in their lives. And I think that is something that so many people just fly right by. They overlook the importance of having high standards. Elizabeth, what do you say to that?
Yeah, it's like I think that people sometimes don't even realize that their standards are just like the normalized way that they live. And they're getting by and they're achieving some things and they're comfortable and they're somewhat happy and life's not that bad. And they can even talk themselves into, oh, I have this great life, right? And it just reinforces these standards that we just keep proliferating. Yet when we write in our journals and we talk about these businesses that we want, like that's a whole different set of standards. But then it's like we're never really, it's like we're trying to like jump up and grab the bar, but we can't. We just keep jumping and jumping and jumping and we can't grab the bar. So I mean, it really, really struck me, when I saw you and I was just watching you, and it's like the way that you frame up these retreats. It's like it's powerful, but it has a gentleness to it, and I
Mm.
think that's just you. And I think that watching that, because not only are you showing people new standards, you're also giving them the best opportunity to learn. Like when you say show up on time, nobody wants to have five people coming in, shuffling in 10 minutes late and interrupting and all of that, right? You're actually preserving and honoring the fact that people flew from all over the world and left
Yeah.
kids and partners behind and all of that, right? Like let's live our life that way, and then you'll live your business life that way as well.
Yeah, I think people just don't realize how important it is to have high standards. That, when you turn up in a room and you're meant to be there and someone's starting at 10 o'clock, then you're there and you sit down and you respect that this is not the time to chit chat or whatever. And that's only one small example. But I think that this was really, from a business perspective, really understanding like, well, one of the most important standards is what are you wasting your time on? Like what are you spending all your time on? Because if you're spending all your time learning a shit ton of marketing, but you're not implementing any of that marketing, if you're spending a shit ton of time learning all your human design and sitting around with your friends just talking about your human design, that's not a high standard. The high standard is that I'm going to learn the knowledge and then I'm going to put it into action because I want to create something. I want to discover who I am and be the best version of me. And I then want to go out to the world and contribute to whatever's going on planet Earth right now. And I just feel like it was um, such an important lesson and just a reminder for me. I was actually like, for me, I had that moment of reflection, like, well done, Emma, because I kind of, it's so, and I'm certainly not perfect, don't get me wrong. Certainly not perfect when it comes to like, I don't know, wearing makeup. I have very low standards, but, um, you know, it's just such a game changer and just a simple thing. T, have you got anything you want to respond to on that?
Yeah, I think this conversation makes me think about the difference between standards and expectations,
Mm,
especially in business. Like, we live in this time where you hear all the time, don't have any expectations, don't be attached to the outcome, which is great advice. And it doesn't, at the same time, it also doesn't mean don't have any standards, because expectation is like, you like this thing has to go this way and it comes from a place of attachment. You're trying to force things. Having a standard is more of an energetic frequency of like, this is where I vibrate at. This is
yeah.
my standard on this thing. And then you will continue to attract things of that quality. Like, Em, you talked a lot on the retreat about like when you work with clients, they're always on time. They don't miss calls. And it's because that's the human that you are. That's the standard you have for yourself. So I think it's that really important to distinguish between like that difference between expectations and standards.
I think that is freaking epic. You're absolutely spot on. And if we're more focused on our standards and less focused on expectations, because I mean, expectations will always let us down. I really feel like that is a much quicker road to joy, happiness, success, abundance, authenticity, all the things.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what was your favorite personal experience? Like was there, I know for me it was really, as always, they're so freaking transformational for me. It was so cool to have Elizabeth there. It was the first time T was teaching, um, well, at least in a formal way. And it was cool, like, just to have this completely different experience. And then at the same time, what I find these retreats are so epically powerful, right? That yes, we are consciously focused on business. Um, our business is just flying at the moment, and it's just, I reckon, it's just about to go absolutely ape shit, as they say here in Australia. I've just signed up with a new coach. Once my divorce and financial settlement's done, I just feel like it's going to be the energetic opening that I've been feeling for a number of years. So I'm super excited about it. And the thing I just love is it brings me back to a good old NLP principle of the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. Because even though I'm so focused on holding space and these people's businesses and success and authenticity and really helping them troubleshoot and all of the things, it was just this awareness yet again that it's not just the business that's in the room. It's all of you that's in the room. So for me, it was really letting go of the last pieces of my, the old version of my relationship with my ex, right? Like, yes, we'll always have a relationship because we have children together, but it was like really the closing the doors of that. It was really funny because I've arrived home and it's been a literal shitstorm. The dogs had pooed everywhere in the house. It was, something was dead in the rubbish bin. And then I got some freaking thing in the mail that I'd been putting off getting a new accountant, and this thing arrived in the mail, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I lost my shit. So I found a new accountant already. And, I've also really redirected a lot of other energy. So I think that's one of the things that I love about these retreats for me personally. Even as the facilitator, I have these massive shifts that just, I don't know, like, and I feel like I've yet again arrived home and hit the ground running. It's like, okay, you said you want the next level, so let's go for the next level. Um, yeah. Taylor.
Favorite personal experience?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Also have to give I have to say this like a transpersonal profile would, is that and then I will make it about me momentarily, I promise. I love it on this retreat and every retreat. I love watching everybody naturally be themselves, and like we already talked about, their gifts just come out. Like, and it's the in between spaces between everything where there's no pressure or thinking or exercise or whatever it is, and it's just you watch these people just naturally be themselves, and they're in a room full of people that are like-minded, that accept them, that want to know more, that pull their gifts out of them even more. And it's just, I love kind of sitting off to the side in those in between spaces and watching the dynamic and watching them all just become even more of who they already are, like, and letting it out of the box. And then they leave so empowered and happy and inspired. And it just like, it makes my heart happy. So that's me saying it how a transpersonal profile needs to say it. And then for me personally, getting to teach in a really formal way and share something I'm just so passionate about that I do every single day was really exciting. And, having feedback about the power of it, and having people say things to me like, you were so grounded in your authority, and all these things that I've been really on a journey with the last couple of years. It was just really nice to see all the different iterations of myself. Like every retreat I transform in a way, kind of come together in a full circle moment with people that have already been on a retreat or things like that, and then reflect that back to me like, you're such a different person than the last time I saw you. So personally, that was really exciting, because I think that sometimes we don't notice our own growth until it's reflected back at us.
Yeah.
So for me, that was really powerful.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of my favorite things was actually seeing the growth between retreats or between the mastermind. Like, one of the girls in particular, Sarah, who was on the Byron retreat earlier this year. That was this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy, far out. And she was a completely different human. Like, she turned up as a completely different human, and then she left as a completely different human, I love seeing those transformations. And I think the other piece for me, I just love the breakthroughs. That moment where they're sitting in the chair and like something said and they just go, oh, fuck. Yeah. I love that so much. So good. Elizabeth, how about you?
Well, I just want to reiterate, Taylor. I already T as we call her. I already told you this, but getting to see you in this teaching environment For me, it was a juxtaposition to who you were on the Camino. And
Mm.
oh my God, what a difference. And your power is coming through in calmness. And this, it's like a confidence that you've already always had is like coming to the surface because like it has the space to do it. And the way that you put everything together, and you didn't just teach it, you taught it in a way that was like, it was a puzzle. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was something that they're going to remember. And so, anyways, yeah,
Yeah,
I
thank you.
love seeing that. I loved it. And yeah, as far as the people, I mean, some of the people I did know, some of the people I didn't, but I very quickly felt like I did know them. Because I think it was just such an open environment that we're all kind of feeling each other's energy to a certain degree, and it was great because sometimes you got to talk to somebody in line when you're waiting on food, and then sometimes you got to interact with someone when you're coaching the hot seat, and it's just like it was such a dynamic situation. I think for myself, I'm all about like, because my whole thing is all we're doing out here, this is just a big game of managing our energy. So I'm always like sort of looking at myself in terms of managing my energy. And then I go out into the world and I experience life. And then what I do is I observe, how am I different, or how am I interacting with this? Like, how is this experience moving through me? And I'm an emotional authority, right? So that's just my whole, and I can be very extreme, right? We see that in my design as well, right? So I used to have this thing where my extremes, like I'd be extremely high and then I'd be extremely like, oh my God, why did I do that? Oh, I should have done this different. I should have worked out more, or da. No, I don't do that anymore. Like now that it's just a very, very small bandwidth. So for me to be able to spend the weeks coming up to this just in a lot of creating space, a lot of meditation, a lot of all the things that I do at home when I'm walking the land and all that, and to be able to come here and to bring the up level for me was definitely to being able to bring a level of stillness to this, which is, it's an allowing for me, but it's really for them, because otherwise I'm my identity is going to be interacting with their identity, and I'm not really going to be able to help them at the level that I really wanted to help them at, right? Because it's like almost like when we're not in a space of stillness, we talked about this, projecting ourselves into it, and then we're not as effective. So that was something I really enjoyed, and something that I noticed about it and that I learned is it takes very little energy to exist that way too. I was very relaxed throughout it. I mean, I was exhausted at the end because we had, 4 or 5 days of it. At the end, though, the personal stuff came up for me. Here's something, and I'll just end it with this, because here's my emotional roller coaster, right? So then I'm like at the retreat, I'm like, the stillness, all of that, and then when we get to our own place after the retreat, and I sort of just like, uh, then you guys know what happened, and Emma, you did such a great job at calling me on this, because what I found myself doing is, I love to create. We all love to create, right? And so I was creating based on fixing something, which is in the past, rather than creating based on my future. And Emma's for like, wait. That was the best thing ever. That was the line in the sand that I needed, which again is another up level, another up level. So I think we're experiencing, we're observing, we're up leveling. There's no wrong or right. There's no good or
Yeah.
bad. We're just doing it over and over again.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, the thing that's important is, you'll often talk about we have to stop thought or choose our thoughts. And for me, the way I like to focus on that is not engaging in the stories of the past. Like I'm not a big fan of complaining, never have been, but these days I'm really not. And it's all well and good. I'm 100% up for tell me your pain, go for it, in all the details. I'm here for you. I can hold space for you. But I think one of the things that I've learnt over the last 20 years, and it's the thing that people, they say they want to change, and then they learn that where their focus goes, energy flows, and then they make this excuse like, well, I need the pain, I need the struggle, or I need that. No, you fucking don't. The whole point is if you want to change, you have to change your focus. Yes, you've got to heal the thing that's creating the behavior, but it doesn't mean, it's like Richard Rudd says with the Gene Keys, you're meant to focus 80% on the gift. And I think that that's really this whole retreat. It was just really helping all of them reshift their focus, like focusing on what they want, focusing on their role in the business. I think that understanding that these were all a room full of visionaries, that they weren't going to be the ones that end up being COO of the business. They're not going to be running all the operations. They will at some point hire their tailor. And that gave them such a sigh of relief, and in that they could focus on being the visionary and the creator, like you and I, Elizabeth. And yeah, I'm just a massive advocate for, we get to choose what we focus on. And if we choose the standard that, even if so one of the things for me is like, I'm super happy for I'm going through my own process at my own speed. None of my friends are judging me. You're going through your process at your speed about whatever it is. No one's judging you. And at some point there comes that standard, right? That standard has to be there, because I would want you to hold me to a standard, because I know I've definitely, been in the same position. That we have to just get to the point where we go, hang on a second, I'm just falling into that old pattern. It's not a trauma I need to fix. It's not a lesson I need to learn, because I've healed it and I've learned it. Now it's just an addiction that I'm choosing to stick with. And yeah, I reckon that was one of the things for me on the retreat as well, like really helping everyone see, like, you are so much further along the path than you think you are. And to get from where you are to where you want to be isn't as hard as you think it is. It's really about understanding yourself at the deepest possible level. And, I got to say it, ultimately following your strategy and authority.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like, I know I learned as much about myself as anyone. I mean, I think it was transformational for all of us, because, I always say, like, you can't read the label from inside the jar. Like, we
Yeah, I love
need
that.
people around us. Otherwise, I'm just stuck in the damn jar the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Yeah, and then we let loose a little bit, didn't we?
Yes,
We got up to a bit of mischief, which was fun
we
afterwards.
did. Emma's very mischievous, by the way. That's another thing. So, Emma's 7-year-old self is coming out again, which is really, really, it's actually a really great sign. To me, it's like, you're just so relaxed now, right? And you get this laugh about you that really is like 7-year-old Emma. And it's just such a gem. I just sit there and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so lucky I get to see you in this world, in this environment.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? Like, you don't know that you've stopped doing or being something
Yeah.
until you start doing or being that thing again. And one of the things that I talked a lot about when it was just us after the retreat with Corinne and Sash, that realization that I just haven't felt light and playful and mischievous and all of those things for so long. And the last, I don't know, 12 months has really, really shifted, like really amplified my line 3 again. And yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm up for the mischief. Uh-huh. So I suppose, are there any final words? Is there anything that you think is important that our listeners need to hear um, from you?
T?
I'll go off of what you were actually just saying, because that lightness and playfulness and mischievous side of you, as it's out more in the last 12 months, it's absolutely reflected in the business growth as well. I think it's just the reiteration of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, and it's all connected. And if you're feeling stuck in a place of like, you don't have clarity or you don't know what to do, like go play and dream and, be with people you love and have fun. And it's like reignite that part of you that feels inspired or excited or something, because it's not all about the like honing in on the details, like until you make yourself crazy, be light, be fun, be authentic, be you. And it can be that easy. I know it sounds oversimplistic, but it's really not. I think that we've gotten to this place in the business where the more we both just, and the rest of the team, like just become and be ourselves, the more the business grows and expands. And it's almost like this, not that we're surprised, but we act surprised at it. Like, wow, look at how we let go of control and look what happened. I have this, one of my favorite moments at the retreat was at the end, standing, in a circle before we said goodbye to people at the last breakfast, and just making the statement, like, it feels like we've shifted from a place of trying to lead the business where we want it to go to now it's leading us.
100%.
That's
100%.
my final piece of
I love
wisdom.
that. And it's so true. Like, we are now just in such a surrendered space. It's like, you show us, universe, we'll just respond. So good. Elizabeth, any
Yeah.
last thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll kind of pile on top of that a little bit, because that is so true. The authenticity really is the money and the business. They're all the same thing, right? One thing that I would say, and I talked about this a little bit at the retreat, which is none of this stuff is measurable. Because I think that people get really stuck when it comes to money, because they get all caught up in linear time. They get caught up in, well, you're at this place in the business, but I'm at this place in the business. I don't have my tea. I don't have my blah, 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 right? So like I have a big business. I have a team. I am a multimillionaire. I have made a lot of money. I invest. I do all of these things, right? I do all of these things that other people might say, oh, well, someday I'll do that. I'll get there, right? Same thing with you guys. You have the team, you have the big business, you have all of this. I think what I want to say to people is that, so where I am and then where I want to go, I'll just say it's up, but there's really nothing measurable. We're just talking about a difference in frequency here. I am letting go so that I can rise to my next frequency. Just because my frequency is defined as, let's say, 10 million rather than a million, doesn't actually mean it's any different than yours or Emma's and Taylor's, right? It's all the same. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think that people get caught in this state of waiting, or thinking they need to maybe do something different in order to get to this next level. But you're not trying to get to somebody else's next level. All you're trying to do is let go and let your frequency rise, and yours is just the same potential as mine or anybody else's. The potential is based on our own definition. The potential is not based on comparison.
Yeah, oh my God, that is so true. And as you were speaking, I'm just yet again reminded that, when I was living paycheck to paycheck,
Mhm.
I was so convinced I would feel a certain way, that I would feel different. And yeah, of course I feel different. However, I don't feel the different that I thought. I didn't feel like I would be a completely different person. I still feel like me. I just feel like more me than I've ever been before, and trusting that. And within that, that's my money frequency, my success frequency, my relationship frequency, all the things. It's why I love human design, because I really, really know that once we let go and surrender to our design, to our strategy and authority, not get stuck in the knowledge, but actually implement it in our lives, then everything else becomes so much easier. And then when we hit this, this word stuck, which is ridiculous, by the way, because you're never stuck. But once you hit this word, then it gives you a way out, because all you got to do is follow your strategy and authority and be more you. Learn the lesson, go to the next step, just like a Game Boy game or something like that. Just keep moving up the levels, because you will always feel like you. You'll just feel more free, more love, more joy, more all the things, and then the money comes with it.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And I would even say that I think in some ways it even gets a little bit easier. It gets easier if you can, rise in frequency and then reflect back about how you rose in frequency, rather than looking for evidence that you're still not there.
Yeah, I agree. You always want to give your brain evidence that you're already changing, that is already available to you. And then that makes growth easy. Well, thank you, ladies. In the last couple of minutes, all of a sudden, I'm like feeling my eyelids dropping just a little bit. I'm like, whoa, it's only 2:00 in the afternoon, and I feel like it could be like 7:00 at night. But anyway, thank you so much for joining. It's been so much fun to just spend the last 10 days with both of you. It's been such a game changer, and oh my God, I love you both to the moon and back. Just the best ever.
We love you too. Even when you're stealing pool toys from the neighbors.
I know.
That was funny. Well, Corinne wanted the bloody peacock's pool toy, so I just figured I'd go and get it.
You're the best. That's why you're a great friend.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who has been listening. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now. Thanks, everyone, for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.